Hi, this is Raman from Alberta Real Estate School. Today I wanted to share a lesson with you in regards to the Alberta Real Estate Act. We'll look at the different components that make up the Real Estate Act. Also, we'll go over some of the examples of questions that you may see on the real estate exam. So let's get started.
So what is the Real Estate Act? The Real Estate Act is a provincial legislation, so it only applies in Alberta, and it establishes the framework for regulating three different professions: real estate, mortgage brokerage, and real estate appraisers. The key points to remember about the Real Estate Act are that it is a statute enacted by provincial legislature, so it is the law. It is the responsibility of Minister of Service Alberta, and it can only be edited by legislative process. So any changes or amendments that need to be made to the Real Estate Act have to go through the legislative process. The Real Estate Act consists of four different components. There is the Act, the rules, the bylaws, and the regulations. So let's take a look at each of these components. The Act. The Act is divided into 6 different parts, and each part focuses on a specific aspect of the legislation. The different parts are RECA, which establishes RECA, the Real Estate Council of Alberta, and defines its purpose and powers. Then there's the regulation of business of an industry member, which deals with the authorizations to trade in real estate. Conduct proceedings, which deals with investigations, hearings, and appeals in regards to the conduct of industry members. There's the Real Estate Assurance Fund, which is designed to protect the public from fraud or breach of trust by real estate or mortgage brokerage industry members. And then there's the Alberta Real Estate Foundation, which is established to promote education of real estate and mortgage brokerage professionals. And then there are general guidelines. The rules. The rules are standards of practice for industry professionals. These deal with things like authorizations, licenses, and registrations, standards of conduct and practices of the members, accounting, bookkeeping, and reporting requirements, errors and omissions insurance, which is done through REICs, and the fee schedules for various things like licenses, registration, and so forth. Since the rules are administrative in nature, these can be amended by the council. The regulations. The regulations are amendments or interpretations to sections of the Act. There are 2 different types of regulations: ministerial regulations and exemption regulations. Ministerial regulations set the policy for organization and administration of Alberta Real Estate Foundation and Real Estate Assurance Fund, whereas exemption regulations deal with granting exemptions to certain people from the Act or certain bodies from the Act, for example, banks, lawyers, etc. The regulations are part of the law, so they are made by minister responsible for the Act or the lieutenant governor in council. Bylaws. Bylaws are a set of administrative guidelines that are adopted by the council. These specify how RECA conducts and operates its business. These relate to council members, council proceedings, and council administration. They deal with administrative penalties, hearings and appeal panels, and also Real Estate Assurance Fund. Since the bylaws are administrative in nature, they can be amended by the council. Now, who can make changes or amendments? So the first one is to Real Estate Act or the regulations. Both of these have to do with the law, so therefore only legislature can make changes to these and not RECA. Whereas the rules and bylaws are administrative in nature, therefore these can be amended by RECA. So let's move on to exam questions now, and let's take a look at what type of questions can we expect on the exam related to this. First one is, which of the following has the authority to create bylaws governing the council? The council, Government of Alberta, Alberta Real Estate Association, or all of the above? The answer is A. Only the council has the authority to create bylaws governing the council. Exam question number 2. The regulations as established by the Cabinet and Lieutenant Governor in Council cover the administration of Alberta Real Estate Association and the Real Estate Assurance Fund, or the administration of the Alberta Real Estate Foundation and the Real Estate Assurance Fund, or the administration of the Alberta Real Estate Foundation and the Alberta Real Estate Association, or none of the above. The correct answer is B. The regulations cover the administration of Alberta Real Estate Foundation and Real Estate Assurance Fund. Exam question number 3. Which of the following may RECA amend? The rules, the regulations, the act, or all of the above? RECA can only amend the rules, the regulations, and the act. They are part of the law, so RECA cannot make any changes to the Real Estate Act or the regulations.
Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about the Alberta Real Estate exam or need help preparing for the exam, please feel free to call me using the number below. See you next time with another exam topic.